Okay, so I was actually just kicked out of Zoom, so I jumped back in. Can everyone hear me and see my slides, or do I need to share?
Yes, we can hear you, and the slides is up now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So first, I'd like to thank the NASIG conference organizers for bringing us together and for the opportunity to share our work with this fantastic community. So today, I'm going to be presenting a case study entitled From Complexity to Clarity, Streamlining Acquisition Fund Structures at the University of Arkansas Libraries. I'm Cody Hackett. I'm the Electronic Resource Librarian at UARK Libraries. And I'm going to walk you through our approach to reorganizing our fund structure, a project aimed at making our financial tracking more efficient, transparent, and fully aligned with our library's collection goals. I hope you'll find insights here that resonate with challenges and opportunities that you have at your own institution. So today I'm going to focus on three main learning outcomes. First, we'll explore the process of flattening and restructuring fund models and examine the direct benefits this brings to financial workflows. Second, I'll share how we identified and communicated key policy and procedural changes to stakeholders across departments, ensuring that everyone was aligned with our processes. And finally, we'll discuss how a project-based approach can be instrumental in managing complex library initiatives like this one. So to give you some context, the University of Arkansas is a land-grant R1 public research university with 33,600 students, and we are in a very fortunate position to have seen student enrollment growth of about 1,200 students each year for the past 5 years. So our library's operating budget is approximately $18 million, with nearly half of that dedicated to collections. I'm one of 11 new faculty members hired within the last 18 months just within the libraries, and I was brought on board to lead our newly established Electronic Resources and Acquisitions Department. We're a small team of 4 full-time library workers. So what's this project all about? At its core, we undertook a comprehensive restructuring of our acquisitions fund model. Our goal was to reduce over 370 individual funds and ledgers to fewer than 85. By consolidating our funds, we aim to improve our ability to access real-time financial insights, streamline fund management, and ensure that our spending aligns more effectively with our collection development priorities. This project is also part of a larger strategic shift led by my supervisor, Jessica Morales, the Associate Dean for Collections and Open Initiatives. She's spearheading an effort to centralize subject liaison funds. Previously, subject librarians at our library managed small pots of money um, managed small department-specific funds that were often tied to monographic purchases. However, our major expenditures are typically driven by more expensive subscriptions. So now we're moving away from a distributed model to a centralized collection strategy, and our new flat fund model supports this transition. By centralizing resources, we're able to track and allocate funding across the library more effectively, moving away from the challenges of managing numerous small pots of money. So let's take a look at our old versus new fund structure. When we migrated to Alma in 2022, we inherited an ad hoc setup from our previous system, Sierra. There was no cohesive strategy, just a patchwork of ledgers and funds with limited alignment. We had 39 ledgers and 31 summary funds, along with 300 additional funds that weren't linked to any overall strategic plan. Many of these funds were essentially abandoned, and few had proper allocations, which made it difficult to get a clear picture of how our spending actually supported our students and our researchers. Without significant effort, tracking expenditures to understand their impact was nearly impossible. This fragmented structure made it challenging to make data-driven decisions, and it highlighted the need for a streamlined strategic approach. For fiscal year 25, we consolidated our structure significantly. We now only have 4 ledgers with 72 allocated funds, each one with a clear purpose and a defined role. Previously, many funds started with a zero balance and had little oversight and were often resulted in negative balances, which made tracking inconsistent and difficult. With this new structure, every fund is allocated from the outset, allowing for more precise spending control and alignment within our financial goals. This shift has not only improved our ability to track expenditures in real time, but also brought a level of financial accountability that was lacking before. Now we're able to manage our resources more effectively, ensuring that our spending supports our library's strategic objectives. Our old fund setup wasn't just complex, it was also fundamentally inefficient in several ways. In fiscal year 24, we had over 300 allocated funds, but many of these started with zero balances, which led to inconsistent tracking and often negative balances. Without initial allocations, we couldn't implement meaningful checks and balances on spending. Another key issue was that we weren't using any of Alma's reporting codes. These codes are designed to provide insights into expenditures by purpose, discipline, focus area, etc., essentially giving us a breakdown of where our money was going. But without them, we lack that critical layer of additional insight. So let's take a closer look at the challenges we face. The old structure made it nearly impossible to get an accurate picture of our overall spending. It often took days, sometimes even weeks, to understand our budget position because funds weren't properly allocated and there was no cohesive strategy. Alma was essentially functioning as a shadow system tracking finances outside of Workday, which is our university's central financial system. This separation meant that we had to manually reconcile data between the systems, adding significant work. Communicating with campus offices managing Workday was limited, and that left a disconnect that created additional frictions in our financial process. Furthermore, without a structured fund setup, we couldn't easily differentiate between collection spending and basic infrastructure costs. For instance, understanding how much we were investing directly in our collections versus the baseline cost to run the library was obscured by the fragmented system that we had in place. And finally, we faced numerous challenges with communication across departments, particularly with campus procurement and our law school. With the degree of independence in our work, it was difficult to coordinate efforts, and we quickly realized the need to build stronger, more consistent lines of communication to ensure that we were all on the same page. So to address the challenges that I've described, we adopted a project-based approach. This was a relatively new strategy for the library, so I began by advocating for project management tools to support the process. We implemented Confluence, which allowed us to document each stage of the project from initial brainstorming to final implementation. Our timeline spanned from March to August, and each phase was designed to build upon the last. I first mapped out the core steps required for restructuring and established clear milestones to keep us on track. For example, we divided the project into stages. Using this structured approach ensured that each aspect of the project was well defined and allowed us to address roadblocks proactively. The project management tools help track progress, assign tasks, and keep everyone informed, and it was a crucial component for maintaining momentum and aligning with our objectives. Before the restructuring could begin, I spent a significant amount of time engaging with relevant stakeholders. The initial phase was all about building a foundation of communication and understanding the specific needs of each department. I wanted to make sure that every perspective was considered, so I scheduled meetings with key groups to really dig into what they needed from our acquisition system. My first meeting was with the Collection and Open Initiatives Division, and I gained insight into their use of funds and identified areas for improvement. Following that, I met with our procurement team to discuss how we could align our acquisitions processes more with Workday and make that connection stronger. These early conversations helped me understand the gaps in our current system and clarified what we needed to achieve. After gathering initial feedback, I entered into what I call a deep work phase, where I analyzed fund structures from other institutions and considered various fund models for our library. This involved numerous meetings over the following months as I refined the proposed structure to meet the needs of all stakeholders. Once I had a draft plan, I held follow-up sessions to gather additional feedback and make adjustments. By the time we were ready to implement, each stakeholder was familiar with the new structure and ready to move forward. So, as the work intensified, I created an action plan that was central to the project's success. The 5 stage plan outlined responsibilities for each task, from rolling over ledgers to finalizing the new structure. This plan provided a roadmap that kept everyone on the same page, ensuring that each phase built upon the last. By establishing clear roles and timelines, the action plan allowed us to remain focused and kept momentum going, even as we moved, even as we in, even as we address challenges throughout each stage. So the Update Hub served as our centralized resource for all project-related information. It housed essential documents, FAQs, video tutorials, and regular updates on progress. This hub was invaluable for maintaining transparency across departments, especially as different teams interacted with the changes at various points. By creating this accessible resource, I aim to ensure that everyone had easy access to the latest information and could quickly find answers to common problems. The Update Hub not only facilitated smooth communication, but it also empowered the stakeholders to stay informed and engaged. One key component of the Update Hub is the FAQ document. This document addresses the most common questions about the new structure, questions like why we made these changes and what they mean for day-to-day processes, and also how they impact specific departments. My goal with the FAQ was to anticipate concerns and provide clear, straightforward answers to guide people through the transition. I wanted stakeholders to have a reliable resource that explained the why behind what we were doing. By understanding the reasoning and the objectives behind the changes, they could feel more confident and informed. Recognizing that people have different learning styles and learning preferences, I also created video tutorials to complement the written documentation. These videos walk through major changes step by step, providing another option to learn about the new processes. My aim was to ensure that everyone could access the information in the format that worked best for them. The results have been truly transformative. We reduced our funds from over 380 to fewer than 85, creating a far cleaner and more manageable system. With each fund now having a designated allocation, we can fully leverage Alma's fund rules to prevent over encumbrance and over expenditures, significantly improving our financial oversight. Additionally, each fund is now clearly labeled by its source, whether that's general funds, student fees, or endowments. This clarity allows us to track spending with greater precision and provides a clearer picture of how these resources are allocated across the library. By simplifying our structure, we've built a more efficient, sustainable system that supports both our current needs and future growth. In addition to simplifying the fund structure, we also developed new reporting codes to give us deeper insights into how our resources are allocated. For example, we introduced a subject discipline code that allows us to track spending by academic area, providing a clearer picture of where our investments are going. We also implemented codes for tracking specific initiatives such as faculty publications and open access support so that we can better understand how we are funding these critical areas. With this clearer, more streamlined structure, we can now rely on Alma's out-of-the-box dashboards along with custom dashboards we've created to meet our specific needs. These tools allow us to quickly access detailed financial data, helping us make data-driven decisions. So here's a quick look at a custom dashboard that we have built in Alma Analytics. Unlike the standard dashboard, this one allows us to drill down by funding source, work tag, and other specific metrics that our stakeholders identified as essential during our planning phase. This level of customization provides us with a much clearer view of our financial picture in real time, enabling us to make more precise, data-driven decisions. The dashboard brings together the information that matters most to our stakeholders, offering a tailored, intuitive view that supports both routine financial management and longer-term planning. So while we've made significant progress with this project, I did identify a few areas for improvement to keep in mind for future initiatives. First, I learned just how essential communication is. Initially, I worried that I might be over-communicating, but I realized it was necessary to ensure that everyone was truly on the same page. Even then, some people didn't engage with the documentation or attend meetings. Another challenge was managing competing priorities. With a major library renovation underway and an influx of new hires, acquisitions and fund restructuring weren't always on everyone's top of mind. And lastly, the experience underscored the value of advanced project management skills. Recognizing this, I've started working towards a PMP certification to enhance my ability to manage complex projects like this one in the future. So to wrap up, the main takeaways from our project are clear. First, we developed a simplified fund structure that aligns with our institutional goals, enabling us to manage resources more effectively. Second, we've organized our acquisitions data to support informed, data-driven decision-making. And third, we've introduced a structured, project-based approach that sets a strong foundation for tackling major library initiatives moving forward. Looking ahead, our next steps include building out additional custom dashboards, closely monitoring the new reporting codes, and beginning the integration with the Workday payment system to streamline our processes even further. These next steps will allow us to continue evolving our systems and reinforce our commitment to efficiency and alignment with our strategic priorities. So I just wanted to say thank you all for your attention and for joining me today. And I appreciate the opportunity to share this work on restructuring our funds. And I hope you found some of it insightful. I'm happy to take any questions you may have and to discuss how these approaches might apply to similar challenges at your own libraries. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. I think that there are still people in shock of the number of funds that you were able to. That's an amazing thing. And there is a question. You did this after you migrated to Alma. Would you see any benefits to making the change before or after or during the migration process?
Yeah, I think it would depend on context and what your structure looks like. I think typically when libraries migrate to Alma, so I've done this at two institutions now, it really takes about 18 months to get your feet under you and feel like you're confident in those systems. So I guess if I had to give an answer today, I would say probably the most beneficial thing is to roll over into the new system how your funds are and then start using those and see where the shortcomings are and then decide at your next fiscal rollover when you have those competencies and how to work Alma, really then begin thinking about restructuring the funds.
Great. Okay. How closely does your new fund structure map to the university's budget structure?
So that was a key part of this. Yeah. So one of the things that had happened is has been a lot of turnover, and so the communications between our procurement university budget structure sort of was frayed. And one of the things I used with this project and being a new employee was to say, hey, let's rebuild this partnership together. So what this allows us to do is it doesn't tie like through automation yet, but it gives us the groundwork to where we can do that. So we're tied to our fund, our work tags. So we have those in every fund and those get exported out. And then the other thing is we can look at how we're spending across our grants and endowments, our student fees, and our revenue generating fees. So in our state funds. So it's really allowed us the insight in Alma to see this. And now the next step is to really connect it with that financial system.
Great. If subject discipline isn't part of the fund code, but instead tracked in an Alma reporting code, how are your codes structured?
Yeah, so that was a big part of this process. So we have 60 codes, and so what we use for tracking is both bibliographic data and these codes. These codes are a new thing that I'm trying to see because they're attached to the PO line level rather than a bibliographic record. So one of the things that I heard from our collections team was that some of the bibs in our system are so sparse that they don't have like LC classification. So it was really hard to find out how much are you spending on class P. So what we've tried to do is use these both in conjunction. So we're using both bib record data to do like a first pass, and then we're going to use these subject codes, which are broken down. There's 60 of them that sort of align with the feedback that I heard from our subject librarians, collections team, and acquisition staff. I'll be honest with you, and I've told other people this, I don't know that we're gonna. I don't know that it's gonna work out perfectly this first year. We're gonna see. I anticipate it probably won't, but the idea is the more data you have, you can get to different levels of analysis. So we're gonna start throwing together more and more data.
Okay, and then are Alma and Workday linked, or must work in, or must you work with them separately?
Yeah, so the silver bullet is to link them. That's the goal. So like maybe by the time I retire, we'll have them linked. But that's the goal, and that's why we really embarked on this as well. Because what this does is it starts getting that information in our system so that we can start making one easier just day-to-day work as we export things. But eventually, yes, we want to have an integration, but we're still on our campus rolling out Workday for student payments. So there's like a long list of people wanting Workday support right now. And so I'm sort of waiting for that to subside, and then we'll talk to them about how to get the library integrated directly with Workday.
Okay, for the new funds not allocated by subject or discipline, were they previously? And curious how subject librarians may have felt about that change.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question so what had happened over time with our funds was they had selected a lot in the past. They'd had a large portion of control over monographic funds, but then as the budget flipped, it became that most everything was a subscription, like 90% of our collections budget, and they were spending an inordinate amount of time managing small pots of monographic money, and then we had this whole other system about how to spend subscriptions money, and so what we're trying to do is sort of shift that model a little bit, and that's still a work in progress, and that's something that I think my dean could speak to more so than I. But what was the second part of that question? And these
Oh,
are all great
how the
questions, by the
subject
way.
librarians, how they felt about that change.
Yeah, I think we're at an interesting point because we've hired so many new subject librarians. I think that's made our task actually a little bit easier to sell because we don't have as many people that have been doing this the same way for 10 or 15 years. We have a lot of new people in our organization or new librarians, and so they're open to trying different things. And that's not to say people who have been in positions for a long time aren't open, but I do think it's made the conversation different than it would have been. Yeah.
Okay, and our last question is, does your library admin support all your efforts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. One of the things I worried about is I recognize that I am a new librarian here. I've been here 9 months, but I did work here years ago in a different capacity. So one of the things I didn't want to do is to come in and seem like I wanted to change everything. And to be honest, I was hired as the ER librarian, the ERL, and this feels like an acquisitions project. So we sort of have grown since I've been here. But yeah, we've had great support. And one of the best things is right after we introduced this, my dean came and he was like, I can easily see how much it costs to run the library. Like he was so happy that he could see that this amount of money was going to just the technology side, this amount of money was going to keep the doors open. Like it was just really easy to see it for the first time since he had been here. So that was good feedback.
Hey, and I was just wondering, have you used the Alma Analytics to do any kind of like graphical interface for admin so that you can like they can put them in their annual reports and things like that? Have you tried that?
Yeah, so that's the next phase. We started developing the dashboards. I think Alma Analytics. So one of the things I need to get better at is I find that the analytics portion of Alma for visualization isn't that great. So they've created that data viz
Mhm.
portion, and so I think we're going to end up leaning on the data viz portion because for the things I've been trying to create in Alma Analytics just aren't robust enough. So I think that the next stage for me is to design the dashboards and then make sure those are connected to that data viz um, op, product that we have in Alma and then allow them to use that in their reports. Yep.
Great. Well, I think that's all. You got lots of people thanking you and impressed with the undertaking and that you're getting such good feedback. And thank you. That was an excellent presentation. And I
Yeah.
guess that is the end of our day.
Yeah, and I appreciate everyone sticking around for the last session. I know that's sometimes hard, so thank you for that. And if you ever have any questions about this project or any, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thanks.
see y'all tomorrow.